Hi guys, this is an AI and now on with the story. Chapter 60 Naruto's POV. I walked out of the T&I department building feeling as lonely as ever. I marched my way towards Danzo's office to retrieve Hinata from that asshole. When I got there I received glares from nearly everyone. The others just smirk mischievously. All were part of Danzo's administration. I felt uneasy as I walked towards the office and knocked. I entered the room and saw Danzo standing next to Hinata as well as some root agents. Well, now that you are here, Danzo said, practically throwing Hinata at me. Her eyes were full of tears and she kept looking away from me. Did they do anything to you? I asked, but she didn't reply and continued to look away. I noticed that she kept looking away as well. What did you do to her? I angrily yelled. I just gave her a little gift from my clan, said Danzo. Hinata, what happened? I asked again and she just opened her mouth revealing a sealing array. You son of a bitch. I yelled and rushed him. I felt pain in my abdomen and I looked down to see a blade sticking through my gut. Blood oozed out of the wound. Right as the blade was removed, Hinata let off a muffled scream and black lines enveloped her. They lit up like a fire and I could tell that it was burning her. Kurama, if you can hear me now, would be a great time to come out to play, I thought. Right as I thought that, the room temperature dropped 20 degrees easily. I suddenly felt the rush that I had been missing since they completed the sealing process. Kurama ka-san, I thought. I'm here, Kit. Kurama yelled back. Oh, thank Kami. Where's ka-san? I asked. No idea, but we can worry about that later, Kurama said. What is happening? Check the seal, Danzo ordered. Sir, it's failing. Kyuubi must be trying to free itself, said a root agent. Oh, he isn't trying to escape, I said, getting wide eyes from everyone. What did you really think, that I hadn't spent this last week training? I said. Kill her, Danzo yelled as a golden cloak enveloped me. Everyone was in awe. Shit, he has complete control, yelled Danzo. That's not all that I can do, I said, smirking as I sent an arm of chakra enveloping each of the Anbu agents. Everything was working and my chakra was back. However, I could not hear Ka-san. I felt something odd about Danzo, though he was collecting chakra into his arm and right. Well, Danzo, I think you have something that doesn't belong to you, I said, pointing to his arm. Kill him, damn it, yelled Danzo, backing up. The grip on the root agents tightened, causing multiple ribs to crack and break. I watched as each Anbu struggled to breathe as the consciousness left their bodies. Damn fools, Danzo yelled, throwing his cane away. I watched in disgust as he unwrapped his arm to reveal 9 sharingan eyes all throughout his arm. What in the actual fuck? I yelled. Hinata, get out of here. I will help you later, I yelled as Danzo charged me. He tackled me through a wall and we came out the side of the makeshift Hokage tower. This drew a lot of attention. Naruto asked. Ino and Shikamaru and Choji just watched. Little busy, I said as I dodged Danzo's futon Renkuden. Why are you fighting the Rokudame? Choji yelled. Did you even see the fucker's arm? I yelled back, angered that the man stole the eyes of Sasuke's clanmates. Holy shit, yelled Kiba as he rounded the corner, panting. Shit, too many people are here. I must get him out of here, I thought. I jumped up after dodging another strike from Danzo. Listen here, you piece of shit, I yelled back as I led him away from the villagers. Just because you got those eyes doesn't mean that you can beat me. Cage Bunshin no jutsu, I yelled back, creating multiple clones to distract Danzo while I sent a few to gather nature chakra. Naruto Uzumaki, you were sentenced to death for treason against Konohagakure no Sato, Danzo yelled moments before one clone used Mokuton to capture Danzo. Now what have I done in order to warrant that? I asked. You have broken the agreement that we had made as your Hokage. I order you to stand down, Danzo yelled, attempting to break out of the wood. Actually it was you who broke our agreement first, therefore this is your fault. I countered, you trained in order to break the seal when you wanted, Danzo said accusingly while still struggling. Well, I don't necessarily trust you, asshole, I said. Everything I do is in order to benefit Konoha. Really, then why have the chakra of one of your best shinobi sealed for no reason whatsoever? I said, because you hate this village and its people. If you grow too strong then you will betray us, Danzo said accusingly. Do I hate this village? No, the people in the village on the other hand I hate their guts. However, there are a few that I do enjoy their company, like Hinata, who you kidnapped and force my hand to submit, I said, tightening the grip of the Mokuton Jutsu. You are the Jinchuriki of this village, and we cannot lose a weapon such as yourself, Danzo yelled. I am a human being, you have no right to lock me away for no reason, I yelled back, tightening the grip on him more. Damn you, Uzumaki. I knew that destroying Uzu was a good idea, Danzo yelled as he tried to breathe. What did you say? I asked. I helped destroy your clan's home for the glory of Konoha. We couldn't have a place as powerful as your home, Danzo yelled. I looked at the man and all I saw was red. In a matter of seconds I crushed him within the wood, killing him. Suddenly he vanished. Now you have attempted murder against the Hokage of Konoha. For that I will grant you a fate far worse than death. I will have your friends and family executed, Danzo said. I won't let you touch them, I yelled as I rushed in, making a single hand seal. Shot in Suishoto, I yelled as a blade of crystal formed in my hand as I ran it through Danzo, only for him to vanish again. That's twice you tried to kill me, said Danzo. Screw you, I yelled, full of rage. You destroyed my family's home and try to preach that you did it to preserve Konoha. We were allies. And how well did that work with Suna? Danzo shot back. You broke their trust when you abandoned Uzushiogakure and took missions that the Wind Dame was feeding Konoha rather than returning them to Suna. I shot back. I tried to calm myself down a bit with my thoughts, and I needed a plan. I need to take care of that arm, I thought. Danzo rushed me again. This time he drew out a kunai and tried to slice me up, but Kurama used his chakra to divert his hand's path. I suddenly charged the crystal blade with Raiten chakra, and to my surprise it worked. Raiten Suishoto, I yelled as the blade sparked with blue arcing of the pink blade. It was rather quite the sight to see, especially when it was coated in a layer of blood. Third time, Danzo said, rushing in again. This went on for another 7 minutes, and I noticed after 2 more times the Sharingan eyes closed one at a time. After each death there was only one eye left on his arm, that is, until I sliced him in half with a futon jutsu. It seems you have taken out all my Sharingan eyes. What a pity, Danzo said, and for the last time he rushed and I ducked under his leg as he tried to kick me upside the head. Countering, I tried to sweep his remaining leg, but he jumped back doing a flip. You move well for an old bitch, I said, full of venom. He didn't reply. I made a few more hand seals, finishing on a ram seal. The Kuten Bakuhatsu sei Boido, I said, focusing on his shoulder. An explosion followed, separating his arm as it had been blown off by my jutsu. Danzo screamed in pain, holding his now stump of an arm. You can't win this, I said, but the unexpected happened. Danzo unwrapped the bandages on his face, revealing another Sharingan, but no ordinary one. He unveiled Shisui Uchiha's other eye. Koto Amatsukami, Danzo yelled. Just as I closed my eyes I felt my mind go fuzzy and my memories were fading. Hinata, I'm sorry, I said as tears formed in my eyes. I dropped to the ground, seeing Danzo-sama smirking at me. What happened, Danzo-sama? I asked. You have hurt your head in a sparring incident. I guess I went too far on you, Danzo-sama said. Forgive me for my weakness, I said, bowing. Danzo-sama left the grounds and I looked around wondering where I was when I felt the urge to throw up. I went towards the tree line, and when I was regurgitating the contents of my stomach, a black feather fluttered to the ground. Heaving again, more feathers shot out and more. Then a full crow flew out of my mouth, and when it looked at me I noticed it had the same eye as Danzo-sama. When I looked into it I felt lightheaded, my ears were ringing, and collapsed to the ground. As unconsciousness overtook me. Chapter 61 Naruto's POV. My head. I thought, using my right hand to massage out the pain. I looked around, seeing I was in a forest. Where am I? I thought. Looking at my surroundings, suddenly the memories flew back to me as I realized the bastard used Shisui's genjutsu that Itachi talked about. Damn it, how could I be so careless? I thought. Easy, Kit. Everything is fine. I let out a breath. I had no idea I was holding, hearing my partner's voice, but I couldn't help but notice the pause. What's wrong, Kurama? I asked. Kit, you may want to come in here, Kurama said in a sorrowful tone. Ka-san, are you there? I asked and didn't hear a reply. Ka-san, I yelled, entering my mindscape only to see her panting on the ground, extremely pale. What happened? I yelled. The seal was placed specifically to make sure I couldn't break it any time soon. Your mother once again decided to sacrifice herself for your well-being, Kurama said. Looking away. Ka-san, is that true? I asked, and she nodded slightly. I started pumping chakra into the seal to save her, but it wasn't working, so I tried pushing more. Kit, stop. If you keep that up you will only harm all of us, Kurama said as tears streamed down my face. Damn it, I yelled. Punching a hole in the ground of my mindscape, I felt a surge of chakra, and I watched as my mother's breathing was evening out, as well as her skin color was more vibrant. The hell? I thought, watching as my mother looked healthier than she was a moment ago. Naruto-kun, she said, sitting up. Ka-san, how are you feeling? I asked, holding a hand behind her. If she didn't have the energy to stay up, I feel amazing, almost as if I was one with nature, she said. I was confused at first, but then it hit me. Senjutsu, I muttered. What? Said Ka-san. Senjutsu, I think I accidentally broke my natural barriers, preventing myself from absorbing nature energy, I said with a chuckle. Wait, if you absorb too much then? She didn't finish as I placed a hand on her shoulder. Ka-san, it's fine, I already know how to balance it out. It's fine, I said before turning to my partner. Kurama, is it possible for you to monitor my natural energy with the rest of my chakra, because it'll take a lot out of me to balance it out constantly, and you think it won't be a pain for me? Well, if the great Kyuubi no Kitsune can't do it, then I guess that I'll have to find someone who can, I said with a smirk, knowing that'll get him riled up. Fine, don't gotta do that every time I say no though. I burst into laughter after that. Anyway, Kurama, do you know what Danzo put in my head as memories? I asked. Well, from what it looked like was that he planned on sending you to Kumo to unleash me onto their population to kill them all, since even with the 2 and 8 tails they couldn't stand up against me, Kurama explained. Really, I say, let them have it, Ka-san, I yelled. What, they tried to kidnap not only me but your girlfriend, Hinata. Hinata, I completely forgot I need to deal with that damn seal, I mentally yelled, leaving my mindscape. I opened my eyes, no longer in my mindscape. I quickly ran towards the Hyuga compound as I felt Hinata was there. I barged in, not giving a damn about the guards. Hinata, I yelled, entering the compound. Naruto, asked Hanabi as I rounded the corner. Where's Hinata? I asked frantically. In her room. Why? I ignored her and ran towards Hinata's room. Wait, Naruto, she's. I toned her out as I ran. The first found her room, and without knocking I barged in. Hinata, I yelled. I quickly realized my mistake, as she was only wrapped in a towel. Ah. Sorry, put some clothes on then I'll take care of the seal, I said frantically, covering my nose. Running out and slamming the door shut. Told ya, said a panting Hanabi. Oh quite you, I am in a rush, I said. Why? Asked Hanabi. Hinata had a seal placed on her by that bastard Danzo and Root. I don't care if I have to become a Nukanin for a short time, but I will put him down like the conniving snake humper he is. What an analogy, but that won't be necessary, I heard from a second voice. We have had Ko looking into Danzo and Root, and we finally have enough information to charge him with treason against Konoha, said Hiyashi, although, he said as he activated his Byakugan rush in while. My daughter is changing one more time and you will not like what happens. You understood, I said. As my voice cracked a little after what was a few minutes, Hinata came out blushing wildly. Again, I am sorry, Hinata-heim, I said, bowing. She tapped me on the shoulder and pointed to her mouth. I thought she meant a kiss, so I leaned in. Baka, I heard Hanabi say, smacking me in the head with a random stick. Ah, Hanabi, she means the seal. Right, I knew that, I said, flustered. As she opened her mouth, I inspected the seal, noticing that there was a secondary suicide seal that triggers if the first one is taken off first. Shit, I said, that doesn't sound good, Hanabi said while Hiyashi gave me a look to watch my language. Sorry, there's just a pesky secondary seal hidden under the first, I said as I began my work. In total the process took no longer than 2 minutes, but it felt like hours. Disabling the suicide seal, as one wrong step would activate the seal immediately. Once the seal was removed, I wrapped my arms around Hinata. I'm so sorry, Heim, I said. She opened her mouth to speak but hesitated. It's okay, I fixed the seal, I said. It's alright, Naruto-kun, she said. Her eyes shot open, not feeling the pain of the seal that had been on her for the past week. Hiyashi-sama, are you prepared to move on Danzo at this moment? I asked. We've been preparing for the past week. All of the clan heads and some of the reinstated civilian council are on board with this. The elders, however, have no idea they are too close to Danzo, said Hiyashi. Is there a private room we could speak? I asked Hiyashi, who nodded. We began to make our way there when we entered. Hiyashi attempted to have Hinata wait outside, but she was practically conjoined to my hip, unwilling to leave Hiyashi's side, and activated the privacy seal in his study. Danzo's arm was chock full of sharingan eyes. I was able to eliminate and destroy his arm, but he had one more sharingan implanted in his right eye socket. That eye belonged to Shisui Uchiha. At the end of our brief battle, he used the Koto Amatsukami on me, I said as Hiyashi flared his Byakugan. Knowing what that meant, Hinata step away from him. Hiyashi yelled. No, ordered. I wasn't finished, Hiyashi-sama, I said. Hinata, get behind me now. Know what's going on. I then explained the genjutsu to Hinata, and Hiyashi. Hinata was surprised and scared that I was under his control. However, on a recent mission I ran into the late Itachi Uchiha, who owned the other eye of Shisui Uchiha, which was used to dispel the genjutsu. I won't tell you where I hid the eye after it was given to me, but it dispelled the jutsu not even a minute after Danzo left me in the woods to rot, I said. But before they spoke, I continued, therefore I will act as though I am still under his control until the operation is held to dispose of that thorn in our side, I said. We understand, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, rushing to my side. I have complete faith in you, she said before kissing me. Hiyashi fake cleared his throat, looking at us. Hey, she kissed me, I said, raising my hands in defense. Well, you didn't stop me either, Naruto-kun, Hinata said. Chuckling at my expense, I sighed as Hiyashi glared at me from his desk. I knew this would be the last time I will have a moment like this until Danzo is dealt with, so I enjoyed it. Time skip, it had Been 2 weeks since everything happened. In this time I learned a ton, specifically how Danzo was behind the Uchiha massacre and how he helped Hanzo of the Salamander kill Yuhiko, tainting Konan in Nagato into what they became. This brings us to be sitting in one of Shikamaru's favorite cloud watching spots, thinking, being a mindless drone is boring as hell. Why do these root bastards act this way? I thought. Don't worry kid, everything is fine as long as they don't send you to Kumo, said Kurama. Naruto, Danzo-sama has requested your presence, said a root agent before leaving. Instantly I sighed and vanished in a swirl of leaves. Danzo-sama, I said, entering the room. Kami, I hate talking to this pig with respect. I thought. I have a mission for you, he said as I just nodded. You are to go wild in the middle of Kumogakure and kill everyone in sight as a test of loyalty. Well shit, Kurama said in my mind. You leave tomorrow at dawn and you should reach the village in about 2.5 days, meaning you won't get there till the sun sets on that accursed village. Danzo said. Hi Danzo-sama, I said, vanishing again instead of going to my makeshift house. I made it to the Hyuga compound. I entered the compound with ease and knocked on Hiyashi-sama's office. Come in, I heard, and as I walked in I noticed all the clan heads there. Quite the party, and you didn't invite me, I said sarcastically. Well, Danzo has called a meeting for the council, but what have you found out? Naruto asked Hiyashi, knowing that I would only come to his office if I had news on Danzo's plan. Well, that's perfect, as he is starting his train wreck of a plan to destroy Kumo, I said, shocking everyone besides Hiyashi. What do you mean by destroying Kumo? Asked Inoichi. I mean that he is sending me to destroy the village tomorrow morning, so we must execute our plan tonight, I said, getting multiple stunned looks. We have to take out not only Danzo but Root today, I said. Understood, Hiyashi-sama said as he tapped a button on his desk. Suddenly Coup appeared in a plume of smoke. What have you found out about Root and their facilities? I have found that they have only one entrance and exit, said Coup. Perfect. After the meeting, send our strongest fighters there. Shikaku, I suggest that you Choza and Inoichi handle that. Sume and Shibuya along with your clans will scour the surface and eliminate any root traders. I will assist Naruto with my clan in dealing with Danzo and any troops he has, said Hiyashi. Sounds like a plan, I said, getting nods from everyone. I left immediately, not trying to get Hinata's attention because I don't want her to get involved. I appeared on my father's stone face sitting in a lotus position. I began to meditate, breathing in slowly then out. I relaxed all my muscles I could and entered into a weird place. Looking around, I realized this wasn't my normal mindscape, as one half had the yellowish hue to it like my mind, but the other half was indigo. I saw two figures, one was floating and the other was asleep. Where am I asked. Welcome my son. Chapter 62 Naruto's POV. Who are you? I asked, as I had never seen this man before in my life. Father, Kurama yelled in my mind. What? I asked. Quite, you must listen to the words that this man says, Kurama said, quieting down. The closer that I looked, I noticed that the man actually had horns and third red eye on his forehead, as well as two purple eyes with black rings in it. It seems that Kurama has found refuge within you, Naruto, said the man. How do you know my name? I asked. All your questions will be answered, starting with why I am here. Well, technically, I am your father, as you are the reincarnation of one of my two sons, Ashura, the man said, confusing me more. You lost me at the part where you said you were my dad, I said, shrugging. Damn it, Kit, Kurama yelled. Easy, Kurama, no need to be hostile towards young Naruto, the man said. Sit, my child. This will be a long story. My name is Hagoromo Otsutsuki, although I have had many names over the years. The one you may recognize me by is the Sage of Six Paths, said the sage, my eyes widened at what this implies. I am currently standing in front of the father of chakra and he called me his son. Again, may you please sit as I tell you this historical tale, said Hagoromo. I nodded, sitting down, and proceeded to listen as the sage told me about the 20-year war with his mother, who was the real harbinger of chakra. He then went on to describe the jubi and how the 9 biju were created. He told me the tablet that he left for his son Indra that only those with his eyes could read, in hopes of salvation for his descendants, but it had been tampered with by the Zetsu guy from the Akatsuki in order to revive the sage's mother. He told me that Ashura and Indra have been reincarnated hundreds if not thousands of times throughout the time after their deaths. He then told me that these reincarnations always sprung out from their descendants of Indra's Uchiha and Ashura's Senju. Wait, if Ashura only reincarnates into Senju, then why am I his reincarnation? I am an Uzumaki, not a Senju, I said. Although that may be true on paper, your great-great-grandfather was actually Senju. As a matter of fact, he was the brother of your previous reincarnation, said the sage, who were the last reincarnations. You kinda left that detail out. I deadpanned. Ah, you are correct. I indeed forgot that detail. Indra's and Ashura's previous reincarnations were Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju, meaning that your great-great-grandfather is Tobirama Senju, the sage said as my eyes widened. Wait, it was never mentioned that he had a wife, I asked. Well, he did. However, much like your father, he had a lot of enemies, so he kept it secret after the birth of your great-grandmother and Tobirama Senju's death. Your great-great-grandmother took her daughter and left the village. Later, your great-grandmother married one of the last members of the Namikaze clan and eventually this led down to your father and yourself, said the sage. Well, if that's true, then where did Tobirama Senju's great sweeten ability go? I asked. That happens occasionally. Madara's brother had an amazing rate and affinity, yet none of his descendants had gained this power and would always have more Kate and affinities, Hagoromo added. I see, I said. Your eyes, on the other hand, are quite the phenomenon, Hagoromo said, astonished. They have the power to copy one's affinity just by gazing at them. I am unsure when this dojutsu came about, but I am sure that those eyes cannot be stolen. You have pumped so much of Kurama's chakra through them it would be impossible for anyone to use them, as it would be extremely toxic for anyone to use, Hagoromo assured. Cool, but why is it that when I use Kurama's chakra I am able to copy others' affinity when I normally couldn't? Well, that is quite simple. Kurama isn't necessarily copying the affinity but modifying your very DNA to obtain the affinity. The eyes just correlate with it instead of it reacting to what is copied, meaning that the eyes' colors and features changed based on your DNA changing, he said, shocking Kurama as well as myself. Shit, I said in surprise. Moron, watch your language, Kurama yelled. Really, the almighty Kyuubi who leveled villages is telling me to watch my language, I said teasingly. Just be quiet, you. Kurama half pouted, half yelled. It's all right, Kurama, the sage said. Now what will you do with this information I have told you today? Hagoromo asked. I sat there for a moment thinking about everything that happened in my life, all the early hardships, the beatings, the chaos that I thought would never end, then finally crashing those thoughts when I was acknowledged by Iruka-sensei and then I was put on Team 7 Kakashi-sensei Hanadaheim and everyone. I then remember the conversation I had with Pervy Sage during my training trip. Flashback, Naruto, what do you want to do when you grow up? Pervy Sage asked. I want to be Hokage. I have said it at least 1,000,000 times. You must be losing your hearing with your age, I said, messing with a jutsu that Tenzo Ni gave me to practice. I knew about that brat, he yelled, chopping his hand down on my head. Ow! I yelped, rubbing the top of my head. Then what was that for? I yelled, pointing at him with my right hand as I used my left to continue massaging the sore spot atop my head. I meant, what are you going to do once you become Hokage? The super pervert asked. For the first time I had no idea how to answer. I thought about the question for weeks, no months, and at the end of training he asked me what I wanted to do as Hokage. Again, well, I don't want anyone to go through what I went through growing up, so you could say that I would want to have a peaceful village and then maybe work out from there and into all of Hai no Kuni. Then the world, I said, looking up at the sky, thinking of Tu-san and Ka-san and if they would be proud of me. That's quite the answer there, brat. Now on to working on that Mokuton Kaiten Jutsu. Pervy Sage said, way ahead of you. Flashback end. I want to bring around peace where everyone can live their life without fear of anyone or anything taking what they care about away from them. I said. The sage nodded before asking another question. If you are unable to attain this peace you seek, what will you do? I will attempt to spread the peace as far as I can and be prepared to defend it at all costs, I said. Suddenly the indigo section shifted and Sasuke appeared. What are you doing here? I asked, shocked to see Sasuke. I then remembered what Hagoromo said, that Indra also had a reincarnation. So I guess that you're Ashura's reincarnation, right, Dobi? Sasuke said, indeed. I am, and I presume that you were Indra's, I said back. Now you shall place your hand upon mine and receive your birthright, said Hagoromo. I placed my right hand out onto his while Sasuke did the same with their left hands. I felt a resurgence of chakra flow through me, and as I removed my hand I noticed the sun marking on my palm while Sasuke's had a crescent moon on his. You will need those if you were to seal Kaguya. If she is able to return to this world, all you will need to do is place your hands upon her and the seal will do its work. There is, however, another within this world that is a reincarnation of my brother Hamura. You two know this woman quite well, however she will need to be tested in order to awaken her own birthright, the sage said as he began to fade away. It seems that my time here has already run out. I implore you, my sons, end this fighting, assist each other, attain peace for this world, and be mindful of all the Otsutsuki, the sage said before completely vanishing. Sasuke, I am willing to stop this feud if you are, I said, now noticing his own purple eye with multiple tomes like his Sharingan and black lines. I am Dobi, but Danzo must die, he said, causing me to smile. Well, looks like he pissed off the wrong two people. He kidnapped Hinata and used her as leverage for me to seal my chakra, but Kurama and I are now perfect partners, which allowed us to break the seal. He then placed a seal on Hinata that would kill her if she talked to me, so he's on my shit list as well, I said. Right, but I get to kill him, Sasuke declared. Fine by me, but let Kurama and I have some fun first, I said with a smirk. I'll be seeing you around, Naruto, Sasuke said, vanishing. See you too, Sasuke. Chapter 63, Naruto's POV. Opening my eyes again, I see that quite some time has passed. I looked around to see that the village was eerily silent. Well, Kurama, it looks like it is time, I thought, seeing the route patrols around the makeshift cage tower while members from every clan moved in the shadows towards the tower while others hung back in case they had outside agents. Right, your Kit, my partner said as I opened my eyes, revealing a mix between my normal frog-like eyes from Sage Mode and the fox-like eyes from when I use Kurama's chakra, making my eyes glow a sunburst orange as the golden cloak engulfed me. I looked around to see that 9 black orbs surrounded me. I realized just how much power that I currently held, and it kinda scared me. Kurama, I don't think all of this is necessary for this fight, I thought as I watched the black orbs disappear and I shifted back into the same form I was in my initial fight with the old war hawk. Much better, I said aloud before making hand seals, then slamming my palms onto the ground. Mokuton. Jukai Heki would release World of Trees wall. I yelled as all of Konoha was engulfed in the wooden dome cascading over it. The only light people could see in the village was the lights coming from homes, shops, and myself channeling chakra into my throat. I began to speak. It has been brought to the attention of myself and many others that Danzo Shimura is not qualified to become Hokage, let alone be allowed to live for the atrocities he has caused. I yelled throughout the village. For those who are unaware, that man was the cause for the attack that had happened on our beloved village by the Akatsuki, albeit indirectly, but he still had a hand in it. I yelled as citizens began to exit their homes. Although it seems Danzo is great about hiding his tracks, it appears those he has worked with are nothing of the sort. I yelled. I currently hold a document from Hanzo of the Salamander that requested Konoha's aid against a terrorist organization who was only protesting peacefully and only using their skills as shinobi and kunoichi to defend themselves. Our beloved Sandaime Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen declined this request as we had just secured peace out of the third shinobi world war. However, instead of this document being sent back rejected, it was signed and approved by three people: Homura Mitokado, Kaharu Utatane, and Danzo Shimura, the three advisors of the Hokage who have no power whatsoever. I paused, taking a breath before starting again. Behind the Sandaime's back, Danzo sent his root Anbu to deal with the situation, and one of the members of the organization was kidnapped, forcing those people to kill each other. However, the woman who was kidnapped and the group leaders were all orphans of the previous war, and one was orphaned by the hands of our villages shinobi, and in cold blood it was our fault that they suffered, but one of our own took the three in and trained them before this mess started. I again paused. That man was none other than my former mentor Jiraiya, the Toad Sage. He trained them to be strong to attain peace for our world, but Danzo ruined and tainted their thinking after having to kill his best friend Nagato Uzumaki, summoned an unthinkable creature, eradicating the forces of Root and Hanzo's men in a fit of pure rage and anguish. Pausing again, I began to notice the Root agents that were slowly making their way around me, but little did they know that the major clans of Konoha were whittling their numbers down in the darkness. Nagato and the woman who was kidnapped continued their organization. However, due to Danzo and his actions, they were brought down a path of vengeance and found a way to attain peace by taking the 9 Biju and using them to rule with an iron fist. This is similar to what Danzo wishes to do with Konoha and his expansion aspirations. I said as the Root agents finally reached me. Danzo has tormented and killed for years, cleaning up his tracks in order to attain power via corruption and embezzling Konoha's resources through the civilian council. I yelled as papers began to fall as I watched the Konoha 12 minus Sasuke and Hinata dropping copies that Konan had given me of such documents during my week outside the village. I smiled seeing the people look disgusted by the reports of the dealings in aim that Danzo had partaken in, and those citizens of Konoha as why Danzo should be executed instead of given the title as Hokage which he desires. I yelled, cancelling my KCM before dodging the kunai that was thrust towards my head. Drawing my own kunai, I embedded the blade deep into the base of the Root Anbu's jaw and into his brain, killing him. I jumped over the second's attempt to slice me in half vertically, dealing an axe kick to the back of their head. The third was a little more tricky as I was already midair. I used a cage bunshin to take the blow and made a second one throw me towards the foe. Drawing a kunai, I went to pierce through the chest plate armor of the man, but the second had recovered, swinging their blade to counter my own. The blades clashed for dominance as the other Root Anbu attempted to form hand signs, You made a mistake, I said, smirking. Forming single hand seals to counter the other agent, I had learned single hand seals from Hakuyuki. I said, Kaiten Gokaku no Jutsu. The man yelled as water began to be drawn from nearby plants in the air. Sweeten Daibakufu no Jutsu. I yelled as a vortex of water engulfed the Kaiten Jutsu. Canceling it out and moving forward, taking the man out as well. Now back to you, I said as the ground started to shift into my body. Daiton Chikyu no Kinniku mud release earth muscles, I said. As my muscles grew, as more earth flowed into my body, I was easily able to overpower the last agent and killed them. Looking down on top of the new cage tower, I saw that there were now lights ablaze. With a group of around 6 Anbu and an apoplectic Danzo Shimura, he looked as if flames were about to erupt from his eyes. Naruto Uzumaki, he yelled as the 6 Anbu disappeared, only for them all to collapse to the ground around Danzo, dead or unconscious. I, along with Hiyashi, Hyuga, Sume, Inazuka and her Ninken Shibi, Abarambe, Shikaku, Nara, Choza, Akamichi and Inoichi Yamanaka, 2 masked Anbu who wore Sarutobi clan markings on their shoulders, arrived as well. Then lastly the silver gravity-defying haired Anbu dropped down, wearing typical Junin attire with short white sleeves with red edges and the Uzushio crest on them. The last distinctive feature was a fully restored Hako Chakura to white light chakra saber strapped on a holster hung over his right shoulder. The clan heads were shocked seeing Tusan's appearance and how similar it is to his father's look. So this is how it is, the heads of each of the major clans all in one spot, Danzo said, smirking, and not a regular one but a naughty one at that. It's over, Danzo, give up, said Hiyashi-sama. Maybe, just maybe, said Danzo as multiple root agents dropped down, all facing each clan head as well as Tusan in the 2 Sarutobi clan members. You may recognize them as they all belong to your respective clans, Danzo said, smirking. The clan heads all stared down their respective clan mates except Tusan in the Sarutobi duo as they faced random Anbu agents. The root Anbu made the first move as the Abarambe charged Shibi to try and touch him with his venomous beetles. Each of the Ino Shika Cho duos attempted to outsmart each other. Hiyashi was fighting a Hyuga I had never seen before, and Sume and her Ninken were attempting to overpower the other Inazuka Anbu. The others fought against their respective opponents as Danzo stood across from me unmoving. How did you escape the Koto Amatsukami? Asked Danzo. I gotta admit it was great that the one time I met Itachi where he wasn't out to capture me and he lent me a crow with the other eye of Shisui Uchiha was implanted into, I said, causing Danzo to realize that Itachi used his crow summons to dispel his genjutsu, even after death. That putrid Uchiha just doesn't know when to keep his nose out of my business, Danzo yelled furiously. Well, if you weren't such a shit person overall, then maybe you wouldn't have people trying to mess up your plans, I said as I charged in with a couple of kunai, throwing a few. I watch as he forms hand seals. Futon Shinkagyoku, he yelled, blasting balls of wind from his mouth, nullifying the kunai I threw. You will fall today and you will have your chakra properly sealed away and you will live your life in a cell, Danzo yelled as he threw jutsu after jutsu at me. I was able to dodge most of them, but only most. I held my side as the pain of the futon jutsu was able to slice into my side. Somewhat deep. Danzo was also panting as he had thrown a lot of high-tier jutsu at me. Suddenly I heard a yell of pain and I looked over to see Hiyashi falling to the ground, clutching his chest as flames raged past him, burning who I presume was the Hyuga root Anbu to a crisp. Tusan, who was already done taking care of his foe, ran to Hiyashi's side before evacuating him towards the hospital. I turned back to a grinning Danzo, which led me to jump up into the air as the Inuzuka's hound ripped through the ground but was intercepted by Sume's ninkin. Sorry brat, they got away from me a bit, she said, chasing the man and his ninkin down. I rushed Danzo again, forming hand seals, Raiden Raiju. Suiga, I yelled as a hound of lightning rushed towards Danzo, causing him to jump into the air. Gotcha, I said, raising my hand towards him as sand from my miniature gourd rushed towards Danzo, stunning him. The sand wrapped around the man's legs as I spoke. Yield, never you spawn from hell, he yelled as I clenched my hand. Jishin Sabaku Q magnet release sandbinding coffin, I yelled as the sand crushed his legs, turning them to mush. He let out a scream like never before as his legs were never going to work again. You're lucky Danzo, I said, laughing while standing over him. Damn you, he yelled, lunging a kunai towards my chest. I just stood there letting the blade penetrate me. Kid, are you dumb? Kurama yelled. Naruto-kun told Ka-san, relax. I thought. I stared into his eyes as I activated my KCM again, and the wound healed instantly, causing the kunai to drop from my chest. As I was saying, you're lucky that I made a promise not to kill you, and I never go back on my word, I said before the sound of 1,000 birds chirping ripped through the air. Looking towards where it came from, a small hole in my Mokuton wall, stood a figure with glowing red and purple eyes and a ball of lightning in his hand. He's mine. Chapter 64 Naruto's POV. Holding Danzo up by his collar, I looked up to see Sasuke standing menacingly in a gap on my wooden dome. Sasuke jumped down and made his way next to me. Traitor, Danzo yelled accusingly towards Sasuke. Actually, if anyone here is a traitor, it would be you, Sasuke said, pissing Danzo off more. And how do you think that? Danzo yelled, coughing up blood from a punch to the gut. There's no need to yell, Danzo, we're all right here, I said. I am not as treacherous as you. You were the one who ordered my clan to be killed, said Sasuke. They. He didn't finish as he got punched again, this time across the jaw. They may have been willing to revolt, but a solution could have been made peacefully, Sasuke said, raising his hand still covered in lightning. To hell with the Uchiha, to hell with Hiruzen, and to hell with the both of you, Danzo yelled, ripping his shirt off, revealing a suicide seal. Shit, back off. I didn't have time to finish as Sasuke grabbed me and jumped just above Danzo before we suddenly were nowhere near the man. Looking back at Danzo, I see the seal went off, but not before a large piece of rubble fell on top of him, destroying his skull. Thanks, I said as Sasuke helped me up. I looked around to see all the root Anbu either killed, unconscious, or detained. I rushed over towards Sakura, who was healing people perfectly with Sasuke at my side. Shit, get out of here, she has too much work to do to be distracted by you, I said, pushing him behind a wall. Fine, no need to be pushy, Dobi, he said with a smirk. Just get going, Teme, I said, smirking back at him. I missed our usual banter. I thought I heard Ka-san in my mindscape crying, Ka-san. I yelled in my mind, hugging her. Is that Makoto's? She couldn't finish as I realized she had no idea about the Uchiha clan. Yes, that is her, Sasuke, I said, hugging Ka-san. What happened? She asked. I'll tell you later, I am sorry. But there is too much that needs to be done to ensure that the village survives. I understand, Naruto-kun, she said, kissing me on my cheek as I faded back into reality. Moving back around the corner, I found Sakura and Hinata helping some of the injured. What kind of help do you need? I asked the two of them. Naruto, perfect. I need you to get me at least 4 splints crutches, and if you see any free medical personnel, send them over here. Sakura couldn't finish as an explosion rang. Out towards the hospital. Naruto, forget what I said, go help over there, these people are alright, they may have major injuries but it appears that nothing here is fatal. I nodded and looked at Hinata, who was giving me a nod to go as well. Making my way to the explosion, I noticed that it was by the hospital. Shit, I thought, mentally ignoring my Ka-san scolding. When I arrived at the hospital, I found that there was still some resistance and I was about to go in and help when 3 shinobi dropped down in front of the root Anbu. One had long purple hair and a cat mask. The second one was the sensei of Team 8, Kurenai Yuhi. The last person was her boyfriend Asuma Sarutobi. The purple-haired Anbu took her mask off to reveal Yuga Ozuki, one of Konohagakure's kenjutsu specialists. The last remaining root Anbu stood there shaking in their boots looking at Konoha's genjutsu mistress, one of the best kenjutsu users in the elemental nations and a member of the Shugonen Junishi. The 3 decided that they stood no chance but had nowhere to go. They seemed to look indecisive about what they should do. The 3 began to back away when lightning ripped through the chest of the middle Anbu. The man behind them pulled their hand out of the corpse to be when Kurenai sensei spoke. Kakashi, don't you think that was a little much? She yelled as the 2 root Anbu looked behind them, freezing, wholly petrified by the red and purple luminescent eyes glaring at them. I am flattered you'd compare me to a top junin of Konoha. Kurenai sensei, but that is not my goal, Sasuke said. Coming into the light, Sasuke, Asuma asked, readying his trench knives while Yugo readied her blade. Seeing Sasuke's Chikuto, I quickly jumped down to deduce the situation. Naruto, why are you with him? Asked a nervous Asuma as the root Anbu were killed by Sasuke. Sasuke is back as I promised, I said, with a cheeky smile. You had nothing to do with my return, Dobi. Hey, they didn't need to know that, I said, fake pouting. Naruto, he's a Nukenin, he can't be trusted, yelled Yugo. She used a shunshin to get behind Sasuke, raising her blade and slicing downward on him only for him to disappear. No need to make rash decisions, Sasuke said as his Chikuto was resting at the base of her neck. Damn it, Sasuke, you're one to talk, drawing your blade to her neck, I said, shaking my head. Look, I'll have the T&I department look at me after all this if that'll make you all feel better, Sasuke said, retreating his blade to its sheath. Suddenly 3 people landed next to us. We have searched the entire village and there are no signs of any root Anbu left in the village, Hana Inuzuka said. Wait, said the woman next to her who was from the Aburame clan. What is it? Asked Ko Hyuga, who was the last member of this trio. That's Sasuke Uchiha, they said in a classic Aburame's monotone voice. It seems as though everything is under control. We must inform the others, said Hana. Before jumping away, the 2 followed shortly after, reluctantly looking at Sasuke then at each other. Time skip. I was walking quickly through the hospital. I walked into a room to see Hinata sitting in a waiting area crying. Our eyes met and without any words we rushed to each other's embrace. How is he? I asked. He's. She started but looked down towards the ground, tears forming in her eyes. Once more I was about to say something when the light came off for the operating room and one of the doctors walked out. Well, I have good news and bad news. He will live, however his shinobi career is over. Had Tsunade been out of her coma, she would have been able to save his career, the doctor said. Hinata cried into my shoulder as Hanabi came rushing into the room. She saw us and ran hugging her sister from behind. Oni-chan, she said. I knew she was going to ask about her too-san, so I spoke. Well, Hanabi Hiyashi-sama is alive, however his time as a shinobi is finished, I said as she began crying as well. We stayed there for a while until we were sent off as it was late and we were unable to visit Hiyashi-sama. I walked out of the hospital to see Tu-san crying. Tu-san, I asked, running Over to him. Naruto, he said. Kakashi-sensei, what's wrong? Hinata asked. Anko is in surgery right now, he said, and it's not looking good, he said. We really took a hit here today, Sakura said, walking up towards us all. That was when Sasuke decided to make his presence known. Well, it's good to see you all again, he said, dropping down from the rooftops. Sasuke, Sakura said, taking a step back. Hello Sakura, he said. Well, looks like Team 7 is back at it, I said, trying to lighten the gloomy mood of our loved ones being hospitalized. Hinata smiled a bit, as well as Toussaint. But in the back of all our minds we were all thinking about the health of our loved ones. Chapter 65. Naruto POV. It had been about a week since Danzo's death and Sasuke's return, and Toussaint was named the new Rokudame. Since Danzo was never sworn into office, the stonemason was not happy, as he already started carving Danzo's ugly mug into the great stone faces. Hiyashi-sama's career as a shinobi is officially over. Ka-san Anko is still being taken care of in the hospital, although she will eventually make a full recovery. Sasuke had to stay in the village and meet with T and I to test his loyalty. He had also been put on at least a small month probation. We were currently walking towards Tetsu no Kuni to partake in the recently called Cage Summit. Haku and I were escorting Toussaint in. When we arrived, the samurai were always watching us. The trip was silent, as this summit would either worsen the relationships of Kumo and Iwa with Suna and Konoha, or we would all come together to fight against the Akatsuki. We walked into the building where we will be staying as the receptionist spoke. Oh, I thought Danzo Shimura was named Rokudame, they said, as Toussaint shook his head. Just some measly rumor, I suppose, he said, brushing it off. We walked to our room that had 3 futons as well as its own private bathroom and kitchen. Toussaint decided to go and rest in the bath, leaving Haku and me in the bedroom. So, I said, realizing it had been a while since the two of us interacted, how are you? I asked, realizing I've been a bad friend. I have seen better days. Naruto, how about yourself? He asked. Well, Hinata had been a wreck. Hearing about Hiyashi-sama's career as a shinobi being over. From my angle, I didn't see the kunai that was thrown right through Hiyashi-sama's left lung, and had it been more to the right some, he probably would have lost his life, I said, looking down at the ground. I see, he said as the silence grew once again. I tapped my hands together quietly, trying to think of a way to move the conversation along, but nothing came to mind. Naruto, he said, why did you save Toussaint and I all that time ago? He asked. A small smile grew on my face as I tried to recall the events that happened. Well, it started with our first meeting, I said, leaning back on my bed. I had a reasonably good time hanging out with you, even though you practically cross-dressed, confusing the living hell out of me, I said, laughing a bit, which caused him to laugh a little as well. Why did you do that anyway? I asked. I don't know, I guess I enjoyed seeing the reactions of others when they would see me, Haku said, chuckling some more. Well then, after I saw Sasuke and then I lost it breaking your mask, seeing you, I knew that I didn't want anything to happen to you, and that meant indirectly saving Zabuza from Toussaint that day, I said. The selfish reason was my dojutsu was able to copy your Hyuga, and I needed a teacher to understand it a bit, I jokingly said, causing Haku also to laugh. With that, Toussaint came out of the bath, letting Haku go. Then once he finished, I followed, calling it a night. After the following day, we woke up and got ready for the meeting with the other Cage. We were greeted outside our room by samurai delegates to guide us to the meeting hall. As we entered, we thanked them, only to see that the other 2 Cage here were the Raikage and Onoki. The Tsuchikage with them. I could recognize Kurabi and Yugito next to a. Then there was a woman with Short black hair with a typical Junin attire for Iwa Junin. If I am correct, I believe that is the Tsuchikage's granddaughter, and next to her was a much larger man with black hair and eyes also. Wearing typical Junin attire for Junin of Iwa, Hokage Dono, Onoki said with some venom. Tsuchikage Dono Reikage Dono, Tusan said with respect, ignoring Onoki's distasteful greeting. We waited as the new Mizukage entered with a man with an eye patch with bluish-white hair, and then there was the other, who is what I presume is one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist based on the blades on his back wrapped in bandages. The new Mizukage's eyes landed on Haku and they gleamed. Hokage Dono, she said as Tusan returned the friendly introduction, it appears that you have acquired someone from our Yuki clan, she said. Haku, Tusan said. Hello Mizukage Dono, Haku said. Stepping forward, as you know, the bloodline purges within Kiri destroyed my home and cost me my family. I found Zabuza-sama and he took me in. During our travels we ran into Hokage-sama and his genin team at the time on one of their missions. They took us in and gave us a home. Sadly Zabuza-sama was killed on a mission to take out Akatsuki members towards Kumo. He said, well, that is quite the story, but your home is in. She didn't finish as Haku bowed, waiting to speak again. Forgive me, Mizukage Dono, but my home was never in Kirigakure or Mizu no Kuni. Konoha gave me a home under the Sandame Hokage and I will remain there as my friends and what's left of my family, he said. The Mizukage stood there for a second before nodding and walking away. After a minute or so Gaara, Temari and Kankuro walked in. Of course Kankuro and Temari were glaring at each other. Kage Dono, it's good to see you again, Tusan said, shaking his hand. I stood next to him and I bowed to Gaara, causing him to laugh. Come on Naruto, none of that, Gaara said, reaching his hand out. I grabbed it as he brought me into a brotherly hug. It's been a while Gaara, I said. Indeed it has Naruto. How's you? Know what coming? He asked as I just smirked. Better than I'd expect, I said, smiling. That's great. Let me know if you need more help with it. All right? He asked. All right, but it appears that the meeting may start soon. I'll talk to you later. All right, I said as he nodded. I moved to Tusan's side and Haku as Mifune, the general of the Samurai Legion in Tetsu no Kuni. Outstanding, you are all here already and I hope that all of your travels were not too tiring, he said, sitting down. All the cages sat, removing their hats from their heads, placing them in front of themselves on the table. I would like to thank you all for coming, and since not only did the Godem Hokage call for this meeting but as did the Godem Kage. However, seeing that Tsunade Dono is unavailable, we will rely on you Kage Dono to bring everyone up to speed. Hi Mifune-sama, Gaara said, standing as I saw Onoki roll his eyes. Like you all may know, the Akatsuki are growing in strength and are after the Biju throughout our nations. We have reason to believe that they have already secured the Sanbi, Yanbi Gobi and the Rokubi. The Ichibi remains sealed within me. Reikage-sama I Beehive has brought both the Nibi and Hachibi Jinchuriki, and Konoha has brought the Kyubi Jinchuriki with them. The Nanabi Jinchuriki is at an unknown location. However, Takigakure had confirmed that they had not lost the Nanabi Jinchuriki as of now, he said. Wait, what happened to the seal on Isobu? Kurama yelled in my mind as Gaara went on about the information about the Akatsuki. Well, I think that they had been able to break the seal. What was used wasn't that great and they may have used Nagato and Rinnegan to break it easily. I thought back to him. Kurama roared in disapproval as I clutched my head. Naruto, are you alright? Haku whispered. Yeah, sorry. Kurama is pissed about Isobu, I whispered back. I see, he said as we refocused on the conversation. Akatsuki, this Akatsuki that who cares asked Onoki, causing a few people in the room to glare at him, including myself, the other Jinchuriki. A two-san and Haku, and don't even get me started on you boy, said Onoki pointing at me. Hokage-sama Mifune Dono, do you have permission to speak? I said, getting a nod from both of them. I bowed silently, thanking them before turning to Onoki and his bodyguards, who seemed to have readied themselves for anything. Tsuchikage Dono, may I ask if this woman next to you is by chance your granddaughter? I asked. What does that have to? He didn't finish as Mifune spoke. No, please humor me, I want to see where this goes, he said, getting Onoki to grumble. Yes, she is. So what? He asked. Thank you, Tsuchikage Dono. Now I would like to ask if she is you and you are her, I said to a few people in the room to see where I was going with this. What? Of course not. What moronic idea is that? After saying that, I must incline you to not see rage towards me, as I am not my father, I said, getting the old coot to grow angry. He had killed thousands, why shouldn't I be angry? He started. Tsuchikage Dono, Mifune said, silencing him. With that logic, I should be enraged by the entirety of Iwagakure, Kumogakure and Kirigakure, saying that surprised Mei and A. What are you getting at, boy? Onoki grumbled. Uzushiogakure, was all I said, getting understanding looks from Mei and her delegation, as well as Yugito, who was catching glances at Haku, and he reciprocated. That cost us just as much, Onoki yelled, at the cost of the entirety of my family. That attack prompted the start of the Second Shinobi World War, which only brought more bad blood, leading to the Third Shinobi World War. Your logic here is flawed, Tsuchikage Dono, I said, bowing and taking a step back. That was rather eventful, said Konkuro as Tamari tried to stifle a laugh. As I was saying, we need to address the problem with the Akatsuki. If they are to remain to grow, then who's to say that they, along with the captured Biju, couldn't wipe out the remaining nations of the world? Gaara said. Fine, but I won't work with him, Onoki said, pointing at me, to which I just shook my head. I did feel something approaching at a fast pace. I readied myself, and the others saw this tense. Naruto stands. He didn't finish as I already moved to intercept the blade launched at Onoki. Haku, I yelled. On it, he yelled, forming an ice wall blocking the doorway. Everyone down, I yelled as an all too familiar figure swirled into existence. I saw both the Mizukage and Kuretsuchi ready a jutsu with hand seals. I've never seen. I activated my dojutsu and watched as lava flowed out of the Mizukage's mouth, as well as a stone-like liquid shot towards the man, phasing right through him. I felt the change in my eyes. Looking into a mirror, I decided to keep it in my ninja pouch just for a moment like this. I watched as my iris looked like a flowing liquid rather than just pulsating from yellow to dark yellow. Good, you're all here. I want to inform you all that I am declaring war on all the elemental nations starting now. Chapter 66. Naruto Pav, Tusan, are you alright? I whispered back to him, as to not draw the attention of the others. Yeah, I'm fine. And what did I say about calling me that? Outside the village, he said back. Forgive me, Hokage-sama, I said. Where'd he go? Yelled A. He's gone. He used some sort of spacetime ninjutsu to escape, I said, sealing away my kunai. I felt another presence, however, full of malice and hatred. Suddenly a bunch of white creatures practically oozed out of all surfaces in the room. What are these? Yelled Tamari, using her fan to take one out. I turned in time to see Onoki power up his Jinten, and I activated my dojutsu by copying it. I was unable to see the difference in the eyes, but I was sure that it worked. Shit, I yelled as one of them grabbed my arms and began pulling on my chakra. Haku noticed me as ice shot through the creature. Careful, they can absorb your chakra, I yelled back as I watched one grab hold of Kuretsuchi. I watched as the creature began to transform into an exact copy of her as I threw a kunai at the creature only for it to dodge. Well, it's been a while since I used this in combat, so let's see if I can still use it properly, I thought. No one's pav. Multiple kunai scattered throughout the room. Both A and Onoki's eyes widened. Onoki had heard of the tri-pronged kunai of the Konoha no Kiroi Senko, but seeing them was a different feeling. A, on the other hand, having seen these kunai used in person, sent chills down his spine. The room was lit up with a yellow light as it zoomed through all nooks and crannies, stopping in the center of the room and knelt down, picking up the kunai in the center of the room. Naruto raised as all the white creatures fell. You, Onoki said in complete shock. As nearly everyone stared at Naruto. What was that? The Kiri Nin with one of the 7 blades of the mist, that was his one-eyed compatriot started. Naruto looked at the man and his eyes widened as he saw the veins next to the eye patch were bulging out, much like the Hyuga when they used their dojutsu. Another flash rang out as Naruto drew a blade to the man's throat, stunning everyone. Take it off, Naruto yelled. Take W. What off? He asked as the blade pricked at his neck. Naruto, Kakashi yelled. The eye patch, Naruto yelled, causing all the Kiri Nin to pale. Naruto, I order you, to. Kakashi stopped as he watched the man carefully take the eye patch off, revealing a Byakugan. I knew it, Naruto said in pure disgust. Naruto raised his fist to punch the man, but he was dragged back by Haku. You son of a bitch, that doesn't belong to you, Naruto yelled as he was dragged away. Naruto. Kakashi yelled, full of anger and disappointment. I know how you feel about this matter, but now is not the time, he yelled back. Fine, know this, you, no matter where you think you can hide from me, I will know exactly where you are, Naruto said, pointing a kunai at the mark on the man's throat. Naruto was dragged out of the room by some samurai and was led back to his hotel room. When he returned and was alone, he grabbed his mirror and activated his dojutsu to see. That was something, Kuretsuchi said, thinking about how he had saved her. Her initial beliefs about Konoha being full of only the scum of the earth were now wavering. What should we do about the imminent threat that reigns supreme, that could be a multitude of things? The fact that that boy attacked not only the Kiri Nin but my granddaughter, Onoki yelled. Actually he saved me, Kuretsuchi said. Getting a look of astonishment from Onoki. The meeting went on after that, talking about who would lead what segments of the new allied shinobi forces. A was made the supreme commander of the allied shinobi forces, and Kakashi was named the regimental commander of the allied shinobi forces. They would convene later who would control what sections of the combined might of the forces. Kakashi and Haku were walking back towards their hotel room, not really knowing what to expect, but a sleeping Naruto was not on the top of their list. They let the incident with Ao as they learned his name go for now and sent a message to Shikaku Nara to rally all shinobi Chunin and up meeting in Kaminari no Kuni, leaving the genin and a handful of each rank for the defense of the village if needed. Tsunade had woken up and reprised her role as Hokage, allowing Kakashi to lead his own division. Days pass as everyone meets in Kaminari no Kuni as the shinobi throughout the world all are separated into 5 groups: mid-range fighters led by Darui of Kumo, short-range fighters led by Kitsuchi of Iwa, short 2 mid-range fighters led by Kakashi of Konoha, long-range fighters led by Tamari of Suna, special forces led by Mifune the Great, samurai general, logistical and medical support led by Shizune of Konoha, special attack division led by Konkuro of Suna, sensory division led by Ao of Kiri, intelligence division led by Inoichi Yamanaka of Konoha, Dame protection unit led by Mei Temari of Kiri. Lastly, the allied shinobi forces brain Shikaku Nara of Konoha, Naruto along with the other remaining Jinchuriki however was taken to Turtle Island. Much to Naruto's surprise, Naruto walked around as he met Gaara, Yugito, Nifu and Kurabi. The five of them talked as Naruto deep down felt that something was wrong as they sat there waiting for them to enter the battle. "When do you think we will fight?" Naruto asked Gaara as he looked at Naruto with a weary look. "Naruto, I do not think that they will send us to fight at all," Gaara added as he took Fu's hand in his. "What?" Naruto yelled, but not just for the fact he may not fight, but Gaara and Fu. "Okay, first of all, why won't we fight, and secondly, when did this happen?" Naruto said, pointing between the two. "First, it would make sense to keep us away from the fighting as they need us in order to seal away the Biju for their plan. Secondly, Fu and I met during the Chunin exams a year later as I was banned from performing in the ones after the invasion. People actually infiltrated that exam and were after the two of us for 2 days, and we got to know each other then. It wasn't until Neji Hyuga saved us from the men that we actually were able to get away and finish the exams," Gaara said as Fu nuzzled into him. "Well, congratulations, you two," Naruto said before turning to Yugito. "So when are you and Haku gonna?" He didn't finish as Yugito smacked the shit out of Naruto while blushing wildly, and Bai laughed uncontrollably. Naruto tried to laugh away his troubles, but he felt another wave of uncertainty in him. Looking towards the waterfall, he realized his senses did not reach out past the crashing water. He also hadn't heard his mother's voice in a while. "Elsewhere. Are you sure this will work?" asked the masked man. "While I appreciate you freeing me, I am unsure that this will work," Kabuto said as the coffins raised from the ground, revealing the dead Akatsuki members, some former Kage, former Jinchuriki, as well as some formidable shinobi of the past, including the Kiri no Shinobigatana Shichinin Shu Lady Chiyo, and most importantly to Obito was Konoha's Akai Chishio no Habanero, and surprising Obito was the Madara Uchiha. "Where did you find him?" Obito yelled. "Trust is important," Kabuto said. Obito contemplated his next move as he watched as the man was unwavering the fact that he had the abilities and pawns to win the war. Obito looked deep into Kabuto's eyes, seeing that he was not going to cooperate unless his identity was revealed. "Obito," he said, looking at Kabuto. "What? I didn't quite hear you." "Kukuku," Kabuto said, grinning. Obito Uchiha. Chapter 67. Naruto Pav. Sitting against the wall, I balanced a kunai on my fingertip out of boredom, watching as Fu and Gaara laid down with each other in their arms. Kurabi was writing lyrics down, rapping as usual. Lastly, Yugito was just pacing around, impatiently waiting for our next move. "Hey Gaara, do you know what our next move is?" I asked, flicking the kunai into the air and catching it on my fingertip again without it piercing my skin. Gaara didn't respond as he just sat there. "Ah, he is asleep, sorry," Fu said, brushing Gaara's hair away from his eyes. "All right, I think I am gonna step outside for a bit to get some fresh air," I said. Standing up and stretching, I began to walk towards the waterfall that blocked the entrance, and as I was about to set out, multiple figures walked in. I noticed that it was a collection of shinobi throughout the elemental nations. Most importantly, their headbands all had the kanji for shinobi rather than any of their village insignias. "Sorry, but I cannot allow you to leave, Shibi Aburame," Shino's dad said as I was about to step out. "What? Why, I just want some fresh air." "But is that too much to ask for?" I said as I proceeded to walk past Shibi, only to have the two large Iwa shinobi with Pike's step in front of me, stopping my progression. "Oh," I said, realizing that they have a reason not to let me out. "I get it, you don't want me running off now, am I right?" I asked Shibi over my shoulder. He remained silent, and another voice rang out. "It's not that simple, Naruto." I turned to see who spoke. "Iruka sensei." I said in surprise as I had only seen him at the academy and the cage tower while he was working and Ichiraku's occasionally. I'm sorry, but we cannot let you leave this place, he said in a firm and authoritative tone. Who's we? I asked. Us. I turned to see Gaara and Fu also blocking the path as well. How about we go get some air for us all to share Bakayaro? Konoyaro, Karabi rapped. I personally cringed at how bad it was, and looking around even the Kumo Shinobi cringed a bit. Damn it, bye, Yugito yelled as she slammed her fist atop his head. Enough with the rapping, she yelled before landing next to me. What's happening over here? She asked. Well, I want to get some fresh air, but they won't let me step outside. Kinda makes me more curious about what's going on, I said. I think a breath of fresh air would be nice, Yugito said as she also began to try and step out but stopped as the two Iwa shinobi blocked the way. Move, she said aggressively. No, we are not allowed to let you pass, they said. Very well, she said, turning around back towards the cave. However, she turned back around with elongated claws scratching the first shinobi's face up while the other just stood there and watched. Now or never, you damn fox, Yugito yelled as I snapped out of my surprised state. Right, I said, rushing out of the cave using Kurama's cloak to ensure I got out. When I made it past the waterfall waves, I had to clutch my head as my senses overloaded, taking in all the death and chaos going on throughout the world. Then I saw her. She was injured, yet she along with Neji fought together back to back, fending off against the white creatures from before. Naruto, I heard Iruka-sensei yell as I slowly turned to look at him, pure anger evident on my face. Naruto, He didn't finish as I punched him across the jaw. My friends and loved ones are fighting for their lives out there against an enemy that can completely copy one's chakra signature, and while looking exactly like our comrades, yet you have 5 of the world's strongest people locked up like caged animals. I am going to save my friends and family. No one, and I mean no one, will stop me. Chapter 68. No one's pav. Damn it, we can't stop him, yelled Asuna. Kunoichi, focus, there has to be something that can kill them, yelled a Kumo shinobi. None of our jutsu or war. Yelled an Iwa shinobi before being struck down by a man in blood-red armor as he soared across the desert landscape, ripping through shinobi and kunoichi as if they were nothing at all. Weak, the figure said as his red luminescent eyes bore into his foes moments before their deaths, dodging a kunai, catching the second before embedding it into the chest of another Konoha shinobi. This went on until he was struck by a futon jutsu courtesy of multiple Suna Junin. You think a light breeze would do something to me, ignorant fowls, the man said before his eyes shifted to the east. Kyubi, was all the man said. Elsewhere, stand still. If you move out of your circles you will be treated as a threat, Choza Akamichi yelled, pointing his bow staff at a Kumo shinobi. Everyone was at a standstill as the looming threat of an enemy that could form identical copies of their comrades loomed across the battlefield. Shikamaru, do you have anything that you think could counter these things? Asked Ino. I have no idea, let me think, he replied before sitting in his favorite thinking position. Do you think that we are the only ones to encounter these things? Asked Choji. I doubt that we are the only ones facing these monsters, Choza said to his son. Elsewhere, dropping to his knees, Haku looked on and watched on as a reanimated Zabuza Momochi hacked and slashed at his fellow shinobi. He was brought out of his thoughts when he felt a hand on his shoulder. Haku, that may be Zabuza, but it appears he is doing this against his will, Kakashi said as he rushed towards the Kiri swordsman. The blades of Kakashi and Zabuza met, letting sparks fly. Kakashi, it's been a while, said Zabuza. Indeed it has, Zabuza, Kakashi said with a sad smile. That was covered by his mask. "How's Haku?" asked Zabuza, heavily concerned. "Ask him yourself," Haku said. As ice began to form around Zabuza. "Thank Kami, he's all right," Zabuza said, driving his blade to pierce Kakashi only for the man to dodge. "Haku, listen, I can feel him trying to take complete control. I have to get this off my chest now before it's too late," Zabuza said. "You were always the son I had wanted, and I couldn't be more proud of you and who you are today. I wish that I was by your side through this conflict, but that is just impossible at this point," Zabuza said, again trying to dice up some shinobi. "Haku, carry on my legacy," Zabuza said as suddenly his body froze and began to flake apart. "What's happening?" asked Guy. "It appears that since I now have no regrets in life that I have been granted freedom," Zabuza said as his visible soul raised into the air as the flaking paper-like state left the sacrifice fell to the ground. "Haku stays safe. I don't know what they are after, but know that I love you, my son," and with that he vanished in thin air with a smile that was hidden behind his bandages. A single teardrop rolled down Haku's cheek. "Elsewhere, what does it look like in the north?" asked Inoichi. "Things have bogged down there. As for the other battlefields, it appears that Tamari-san and Tsuchikage-sama have engaged what is believed to be the real Madara Uchiha, meaning the masked man, was a fake, Raikage-sama. We have a slight problem," one of the Kumo shinobi said. "Well, out with it," the man demanded. "It appears that Naruto, Yugito and Bai have broken through the barriers and are on their way to the battlefield," they reported, causing the Raikage to seethe in anger. "They what?" was all he said before bursting through the wall to intercept the rogue Jinchuriki. "Shikaku, you are in charge here now," Tsunade said before chasing after her fellow Kage. "Troublesome. Naruto's pav." I ran as fast as I could towards the battlefield. I could feel all the death and sorrow from the fighting by, and I both felt a presence and dodged. We were able to barely dodge both of our Kage's attacks. "What do you three think you are doing?" A said. "What does it look like? You really expect us to stay back and let everything happen to our friends?" I asked, glaring at the man. "Naruto, stand down," Tsunade demanded. "I refuse to sit back and do nothing while my friends risk their lives. You want me to sit back while Tu-san and Ka-san risk their lives to protect me? Hanadaheim is out there risking her life. I will not sit in my room twiddling my thumbs with everything that's going on," I said as my chakra flared. "You will turn around, brat. It does not matter what you say. You will not get past me," A told as his Raiden chakra moto. "So be it," I said, drawing a single tri-pronged kunai. "That jutsu won't work on me, as the Yondaime Hokage used it on me once already," readied himself while Ba-chan just sighed. "Just don't kill each other," she said, shaking her head, hurling the kunai and performing a half-ram seal. Taiju Kage Kunai no Jutsu. The single kunai turned into 100 all with the Hiraishin mark on it. I inwardly smirked, flashing to a kunai, but right when I did so I created a Kage Bunshin and performed a kawarimi with a leaf. A appeared in a fraction of a second faster than nearly anyone else could even see. I watched as his hand dispelled the bunshin and looked around quickly from above. I formed a hand seal and lighting engulfed me. A's eyes shot wide. "You know, Raikage-sama, I have been studying your lighting cloak for a while, and I have to say that it is quite useful now. I wonder what would happen if I were to mix this jutsu along with the Hiraishin," I said with a devious grin. Before he could reply, A was trapped in a pinball fest, starring himself as I gently beat the man. The Raikage landed on the ground and looked towards me, grinning. Was that it? I felt like I was getting hit by some academy student. He said. His smile faltered though when I was suddenly above him, fist in the ground beside his head, embedded in the ground to my elbow as the earth shattered around the two of us. "I will be going to fight. This is our fight." I said, referring to Yugito by and I. Timeskip, Yugito by, you go ahead, I said, stopping suddenly. But what about, go, I yelled. Turning around to face Nagato and Itachi, the two left as I stared the two down. We meet again, Naruto. They said simultaneously. Itachi, Nagato, I said, grinning while pulling out a regular kunai that I had snuck the Hiraishin formula on the ring on the weapon suddenly with the power of the Raiden. Chakra Moto and Hiraishin Naruto were able to reach the two. Keiyaku Fuin, I yelled as Kanji crawled across the two. That was easier than I thought, I said as I looked at the two. I believe that you already know where your summoner is, I asked, causing Itachi to nod. What will you do, Nagato? I asked, looking at him. I do not know, was all he replied with. Would you assist me if you were mobile? I asked as he nodded and performed a summoning jutsu as the familiar bird creature appeared. Good, I need you to go towards the battlefield to the south of Kaminari no Kuni. They are struggling the most. You will be useful there, Itachi. I trust that you will be able to deal with your summoner, I said, getting a nod in confirmation. I then proceeded to make many Kage Bunshin, sending them to different battlefields and encampments to defend them as I tried to catch up to Yugito and Bai. I caught up to them when I saw Yugito fly past me at high speeds as I saw the few Jinchuriki that the Akatsuki were able to catch, but something caught my eye as red hair flowed all around one woman's face. Naruto-kun, Chapter 69. Naruto's Pav, K. Ka-san, I said, staring at the woman in front of me with wide eyes. Naruto-kun, my baby boy, is that you? She said, looking right at me as tears streamed down her face. I brushed away my tears as I readied myself. I know that you will fight me whether you like it or not, I said, looking at the ground, trying to hold back the floodgates from collapsing. Naruto-kun, you have studied Fuinjutsu. I know you can do this, she said with a sorrowful smile. I know, Ka-san, I said, closing my eyes. I breathe in then out. My dojutsu flared to life as I glared down at the masked man that appeared behind her. You bring my Ka-san into this, and expect this to go your way. Golden chakra flared to life around me. There you go, Naruto, now it's time to start the show. Yeah, Bai cheered, appearing behind me. You will not live to see the end of today, you parasite, I said, glaring daggers into Obito's mask, making sure I avoid his sharingan. Do you really think you could possibly stop me? Yelled Obito, flailing a gun by around. Ignoring his comments, I held my hands out as they began to glow white. Obito readied himself, apparently unaware of the jutsu, Jishin Genkei Hakuri no Jutsu. I yelled as a large cube blast towards Obito surrounding him. The jutsu activated as I drew a kunai and slashed it behind me as Bai jumped back. Yo, that was mighty uncool. So what's wrong with ya, foul? I didn't respond as a swirl appeared between me and where the Hachibi Jinchuriki stood. Impressive, Obito said as his gunbai deflected the kunai. I tried to hide the fact that I made contact with his cloak, but he instantly tore that piece off, relinquishing it from his attire and jumping away from it. You can try to mark me all you want, just know that I will not fall for his dirty tricks more than once, Obito yelled, bringing his hand to his mouth. Kaiten Gokaku no Jutsu, Obito yelled, swinging his gunbai in unison. To further enhance the jutsu, dodging out of the way, I block a blow from who I believe is the Yondaime Mizukage, asshole, I mutter, thinking about the purges caused by this man. I quickly dodge out of the way of another blast of flames, only this time it appeared to be more solidified. Yoten, I thought. Then I could only sit by and watch as a very large man crashed into me at breakneck speeds. I watched as the surrounding began to melt as I felt a tingling in my eyes. Naruto, this is the Gobi Jinchuriki he holds. Kakuo, who allows him to. Thanks, Kurama, I said, smirking. You're all screwed. I said with a slight chuckle as I deflected the blow from the three tails Jinchuriki only to gracefully get hit at speeds that could almost compare to the Hyuga's Hake Rokuhuion show. I flew back, crashing to the ground and sliding a good 20 feet before coming to a stop. Damn it, I should have at least stretched, I complained. Well, I think it's time to end this, I sighed. Steam began to roll off me as lightning crackled around me. Sakyo Hiraishin, San no Don improvised flying thunder. God. Level 3. Forgive me if this translation is as botched as my upload consistency, I said, freezing the three Jinchuriki in place with the seals I planted on them using both the foot and boil release and the Raiten Chakra Moto as well as the Hiraishin. I was able to fly between the reanimations and sealing them away for good. Unfortunately, Obito had gotten away with my Ka-san. Kushina reanimation. We must go before it is too late, said Yugito as she slowly hobbled back. Are you alright? I asked before feeling something off. I looked at Bai and it seemed he felt it as well. In the blink of an eye I draw a kunai slashing her throat only for it to transform into the white creatures that had attacked the cage summit. Damn it, they got Yugito, I said. Haku will kill me if anything happens to her, I thought in correlation. Before Bai could say anything I felt a handful of my cage bunchin pop before I felt my eyes tingle again. I take out my mirror to see what changed and was surprised with what I saw instead of all the miscellaneous changes that my eyes have overcome. They had just turned into a solid white with a slight blue glow around the edges. I then felt my senses overload and staggered backwards. Kurama, what's going on? I asked, trying to control my breathing. It appears that your eyes may have evolved into something completely new. I am not sure what you would be able to do with these new eyes. I came out of my mindscape completely surprised. What I saw wasn't just the chakra pathways of Bai and a bit of Gyuki mixed in. I saw the chakra that went through every living thing. I saw multiple insects crawling around under the Earth's surface, the birds fleeing from the war-torn battlefields that laid ahead, the trees and vegetation that currently surrounded us. I felt and saw it all. Bai, I think that I may have got a major upgrade. Ant cut. Next part after 10 likes and 5 comments.